All right, folks, what is up? Episode 1. Uh yeah, let's get started. So, I'm going to read this article from tomsguide.com. Don't know much about this website, but it has an article that I want to read, and I am going to read it verbatim. Title: Sony reportedly closing stores for PS3, PSP, and PS Vita. What you need to know. It says it was written 2 days ago, so that means that it was written on the 22nd of March. And only one comment. Tom's Guide. Interesting. All right. While the PS5 may be the newest console in Sony's inventory, it wouldn't be possible without three ambitious consoles that came before: the PS3, the PSP, the PSP, and the PS Vita. Remember, we said ambitious, not necessarily successful. However, it seems that the time has come for these consoles to ride off into the sunset for good. A recent report suggested that Sony will shut down the PS3, PSP, and PS Vita online stores within the next few months. As such, if you wanted to buy any digital games for those systems, now is the time. Information comes from The Gamer, an established gaming news publication. That vetted the story through a reliable source and its own research, assuming that the news is legitimate, which it seems to be, although Sony could still change its mind. Sony will shut down the PlayStation Store for PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Portable on June 2nd. The PlayStation Vita store will follow suit on August 27th. If these dates are accurate, then the subtext is clear. You have only a few months left to download new games or DLC for your PS3, PSP, and PS Vita systems. Granted, you'll be able to track down physical copies of games for as long as you like afterward, but those tend to get more expensive and harder to find as time goes on. There is still one possible point of contention. Will users be able to re-download games they've already bought? Generally speaking, even after a piece of software leaves a digital storefront, the content stays up on company servers, and users can re-download it at will. If the entire PS3, PSP, and PS Vita storefronts shut down, however, users might not be able to re-download any content. As such, if there's anything you want to keep, you might consider downloading it and storing it on an external hard drive or alternative memory card. Alternatively, hang tight until we get more information from Sony. If and when the companies make the PS3, PSP, and PS Vita deprecation official. It will almost certainly issue a blog post with specific instructions about how users can preserve their purchases. Whether the PS3, PSP, and PS Vita, my God, stores are really set to go later this year, it seems unlikely that the consoles will last forever. The PS3 is now 15 years old, although interestingly, it did just get a firmware update last year to enhance security and Blu-ray functionality. In any case, Sony can't support every online system it's ever made in perpetuity. 3 months or so should be enough for current PS3, PSP, and PS Vita owners to figure out what they want and download it before it gets taken down. The bigger issue is for tomorrow's retro gamers who may decide to check out classic Sony games a few years from now and find themselves out of luck. All right, so I did skip a paragraph just because I don't care about PS5 restock tracker. All right, I don't care. So, yes, the classic games we know and love, they'll go away forever. Some of them will if they're stuck on digital. But I wanted to talk about this because, again, video games are very important to me, and if I had to pick, like, okay, you can either play games that come out from, like, you can play whatever game you want from now that came out now to however long it goes, or you can play games from now until the beginning of the era let's just say Atari 2600. Yeah, I'm picking the past. I'll go with those past games. I feel like there's enough games out there. Um, but I feel like also there were things that were done right in those eras that aren't done anymore today. I mean, I'm not going to go through them, but it would take a long time. But the same thing with movies from the 70s. Some of my favorite movies of all time only exist in the 70s. And if I wasn't able to see them ever again, I wouldn't, that'd make me pretty sad. I'm just going on Netflix right now just to get an exact year because I was just watching Taxi Driver. And Taxi Driver was made during the era of some of the best movies ever made. So 1976. Yeah, if you haven't seen movies from the 70s, I'd highly recommend it. Some of those movies are considered one of the greatest pieces of media. The 70s was all about pushing barriers and just sort of making their own identity. And that was really important. And there's a lot of eras in gaming where they also did that, where they kind of set their own identity and they have unique spin and ideas towards them. But at the same time, I can understand how, people, needs to move on. They can't have every single game available to download forever. And that's why I think preservation is important. That's why I feel like companies like Sony and Nintendo and Microsoft shouldn't be attacking people who pirate games as much. I understand more for current games, but for retro games, I feel like if you're not going to make it available for the public, someone needs to. I feel like art should be available to as many people as possible. I really do feel that way. And if it's not going to be the responsibility of the people who made the game, then it has to be someone else's responsibility. I really do believe in that. And I mean, the good news for the PS3 and PSP is I feel like that's not going to be that big of an issue, because the PS3 had a lot of physical games that you could download. Some of those games had patches that maybe you're not going to have access to anymore. You won't be able to download those patches. So if there's any game breaking glitches, that's unfortunate. And I know the PS3 started doing that. They started, making download patches available. Back then with the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox, you were kind of out of luck if a game came with a glitch that broke the experience. So that's going to be a little bit interesting. PSP, same thing. A lot of games came out physical. I know there's going to be some digital games that maybe only existed on the PSP and won't come out. That's not as big of a loss just because that was still a new thing, downloading games online. The Vita, though, that's more interesting. It's still not going to be as much of a loss overall, I think, just because the emulation community for the PS Vita it's niche, but it's strong. There's a big community out there, and if you get a PS Vita, I highly recommend. Well, maybe I shouldn't recommend it. Never mind. No, I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it. Don't do it. But yeah, no, there is a very niche community, but it's also very big. And there's a lot of games unique to the system that only exist, and the audience is hardcore for it. So that one's going to be a little bit more difficult just because there's a lot of more rare games. It's not as available physically. So the community for it is a little bit smaller. There's not as big of a community for preserving it. But I think the PSP and PS3 community, they're big enough where I think they can preserve a good portion of the game. And 5 to 10 years from now, it'll be much easier to get a hold of them in ways that I don't recommend doing. But yeah, I wanted to talk about that because, I'm very much in favor of preserving as many older games as possible and having that community grow bigger. Because again, I could show you right now. I have such a huge collection of PS2 games. I have a huge collection of 3DS games. Not a huge collection, but big enough for me. 3DS, DS. I have a huge, yeah, I just have a big collection of all these all the consoles I've owned. The only two I don't have a big collection of is the Vita and the Wii U, and that's just because there's not as many games as I want to play on those systems. So that's why. But most of the consoles I keep, I invest a lot more into it after the market went away. Because a lot of the games, there's something unique about them. They're I don't know, there's something unique about older games, at least for me. Newer games, I don't know why so many companies are making games that are tens of hours. Because people my age don't have time. It's probably hard to see. I'm trying to show the camera. Like, I don't even have time for sleep. And I don't play video games very often. So what makes you think that someone who doesn't play, or who does play video games, is going to have time for games that are hours and hours and hours? It's crazy. It's way too crazy. So yeah, I don't even have time to play games. But, I don't know. That's another side tangent. But yeah, no. I mean, I'm probably done getting consoles anyways. I think all the consoles I have now, I'm either keeping them or I will get rid of them and not buy another one. I don't have the time. I wish I did, but I don't. Man, being a kid, when you were a kid, you didn't focus on time. But when you're an adult, the way you invest in time is so different from when you're a kid. When you're a kid, you don't see tomorrow. And when you're an adult, tomorrow is literally the only thing you think about. Like there was someone at my work and she's pregnant. And it's like, I didn't think about it then. I'm thinking about it right now. But like, oh, she's probably thinking about the date when the baby's coming out. She's probably thinking about that date every day. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, but my God, that's all she is probably thinking about. She's not thinking about, oh, just having a big belly. No, she's thinking about, oh, I'm having a kid. Like, we're going to have another kid. And that's important. That's super important. And it's going to come out at this particular time. He or she, I don't know the gender, but yeah. So interesting. Yeah. And then just a side note for this podcast or whatever, I don't plan on always discussing current events. It just so happens that when I started this podcast, something came out currently that I thought was worth discussing for me, because I used to be a classic game collector, but it was only for consoles I really liked. I'm not going to collect every single console out there. But yeah, I used to heavily invest in older games. So I have a strong connection with older games. So that's why seeing older games kind of disappearing and being harder for people to purchase, yeah, it kind of sucks. It's expected. It kind of sucks. I'm just glad that the gaming community is big enough where it's not as big of a deal as maybe it would have been if the PS3 came out, and I don't know, if it came out in a different era, yeah, it might have been harder to get the games. But I think with how many people are dedicated to these classic games, I feel like, yeah, we'll be fine for the most part. It's really all up to Sony at this point if they're gonna like take down these communities that want to preserve the game. So it's really all on Sony, and that's where things get iffy. And this is why I am also I'm more supportive of torrents. Now, again, I'm not a fan. I'm not supporting illegal torrents, but I feel like torrents is just a great way to share files. I just wish there was something better than peer-to-peer. But I feel like torrents are just a great file sharing system, So yeah, we need more torrents. We need to share more files with each other. I definitely believe that. All right. You guys take care, folks. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you whenever the next video comes out. Okay.